The moment the New York State Trooper ran the VIN number on that gray Ford pickup truck, everything changed. It was May 27, 2020, a routine traffic stop on Interstate 86 outside Jamestown. The driver couldn't produce ID. The plates were expired, but when that vehicle identification number came back, it wasn't just flagged, it was attached to a ghost. The truck belonged to Marcus Sullivan, a Pennsylvania electrician who had vanished without a trace nearly 8 years earlier. The man behind the wheel? He wasn't Marcus Sullivan. What the trooper didn't know yet was that this single traffic stop would unravel one of the most carefully constructed disappearances in recent Pennsylvania history. A disappearance that involved a forged letter, a life insurance payout, hidden evidence, and a secret that had been buried, both literally and figuratively, for nearly a decade. If you enjoy thrilling true crime stories that reveal how the smallest details can crack open the biggest mysteries, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our community around the world. This is the story of what really happened to Marcus Sullivan, and I'm warning you now, it's not what anyone expected. Let me take you back to October 12, 2012, Sylvania County, Pennsylvania. Marcus Sullivan was 44 years old, a journeyman electrician with nearly 20 years under his belt. He'd worked contract jobs at power plants across the region, the kind of steady, reliable work that paid the bills and kept food on the table. That Friday morning, just after 5 a.m., he told his wife Jennifer that he was heading north to the Alleghenies for a solo hunting weekend. It was something he did almost every fall. Same routine, same destination, same truck. A silver 1999 Ford F-150 that he'd owned since it rolled off the lot. Jennifer Sullivan, 39 at the time, watched him load his gear into the bed of that pickup. Tent, sleeping bag, rifle case, cooler. Everything you'd expect for a weekend in the woods. He locked the backyard storage shed, gave her a quick kiss, and drove off into the pre-dawn darkness. It was unremarkable. It was normal. It would be the last time anyone reported seeing Marcus Sullivan alive. But here's where things get strange. Jennifer said Marcus was supposed to return by Sunday evening, October 14th. When Monday morning came and went with no word, she contacted the Sylvania County Sheriff's Office to file a missing person report. She told deputies that Marcus had been under considerable stress lately. There had been layoffs at the Riverton power plant where he'd been working a temporary contract. Money was tight. But walking away without a word? That didn't sound like Marcus. The initial response followed standard protocol for a wilderness disappearance. Search and rescue teams from multiple counties deployed to the state game lands near Thorndale, the area where Marcus claimed he'd be camping. It was rugged terrain, densely wooded, the kind of place where someone could get turned around or injured and not be found for days. Cadaver dogs swept the trails. Helicopters conducted aerial searches over the forest canopy. Volunteer groups combed through popular hunting sites and access roads. They found nothing. No tent, no campsite, no trace of Marcus or his silver Ford pickup. A forest ranger named Douglas Kemper told investigators something that immediately raised questions. Marcus's license plate had never been logged at the Gameland's main entry station. The area used a handwritten logbook where hunters were required to record their vehicle information. Marcus's name wasn't there, his plate number wasn't there, and here's the kicker. Wildlife monitoring cameras positioned along the perimeter trails and fire roads, cameras that captured every vehicle coming in and out, showed no record of his truck ever entering the preserve. So if Marcus Sullivan never made it to his hunting destination, where did he go? For 3 weeks, that question hung in the air with no answer. His credit cards showed no activity. His cell phone went dark. There were no sightings, no leads, no breadcrumbs to follow. The investigation was stalling, running into dead ends at every turn. Then, in early November 2012, Jennifer Sullivan received a letter in the mail. The envelope was postmarked from Rochester, New York, over 200 miles away. The note inside was brief, just one sentence. "I'm done. I need space. Don't search for me." It was unsigned. But Jennifer insisted the handwriting was Marcus's. She turned the letter over to the authorities immediately, and everything shifted. In December 2012, less than 2 months after Marcus disappeared, the case was officially reclassified as a voluntary departure. No crime, no suspects, no further search operations. Marcus Sullivan's missing person file remained technically open, but it was shelved, inactive. By May 2013, 7 months after he was last seen, Marcus's profile was quietly removed from the National Crime Information Center's active registry. His social security number showed no activity, his bank account sat untouched, his phone service had been disconnected, his union membership with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers lapsed due to non-payment of dues. For all practical purposes, Marcus Sullivan had ceased to exist. He'd vanished not just from the physical world, but from every system that tracks a person's life in modern America. And for nearly 8 years, that's where the story ended. A quiet man who walked away from his life, left his wife with nothing but questions, and disappeared into the void. At least, that's what everyone believed. But something wasn't right, and one person refused to let it go. Marcus's younger sister, Rebecca Sullivan, was a registered nurse living in Harrisburg. From the moment she heard about the disappearance, something felt wrong. She knew her brother. He wasn't the type to abandon his life without explanation, without even saying goodbye. That letter from Rochester? Rebecca didn't buy it for a second. She thought it was staged, maybe even coerced. From 2013 onward, Rebecca made periodic inquiries to the sheriff's office, asking if there were any updates, any new leads. The answer was always the same: nothing to report. By 2019, frustrated and running out of options, Rebecca hired a private data tracing firm that specialized in dormant vehicle registrations and legacy address tracking. Her focus was simple: find that silver Ford F-150. If Marcus had really left voluntarily, the truck had to be somewhere. The firm conducted a multi-state search using VIN databases, impound lot records, registration systems across Pennsylvania, New York, and neighboring jurisdictions. They came up empty. No sign of the truck, no registration activity tied to the vehicle since late 2012. It was as if the pickup had vanished just as completely as Marcus himself. Rebecca was about to give up hope. Then came May 27, 2020. Let's go back to that traffic stop, Interstate 86, just outside Jamestown. The trooper approached the gray Ford pickup with expired Pennsylvania plates and asked the driver for his license and registration. The man behind the wheel, white, early 50s, traveling alone, couldn't produce a driver's license, no valid ID of any kind. He gave his name verbally as Daniel Morris, but he had nothing to back it up. Due to the lack of identification and inconsistencies in the man's story, the trooper requested a VIN check. When that number came back tied to Marcus Sullivan and a missing person case from 2012, the driver was immediately placed under arrest on suspicion of vehicle theft and false identification. He was transported to the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office for processing. For the first 48 hours in custody, the man refused to answer questions. He wouldn't sign intake forms. He declined to name next of kin. But eventually, a standard biometric scan revealed his true identity: Garrett Holloway, a former contractor from Blair County, Pennsylvania, with a minor criminal record, trespassing, misdemeanor property damage charges from years earlier, but no felony convictions. And here's where it gets interesting. Garrett Holloway was a known associate of Jennifer Sullivan. Once his identity was confirmed, Holloway invoked his right to legal counsel and refused to participate in further questioning. Meanwhile, the vehicle was impounded and taken to a state police forensic facility for examination. The truck had been repainted gray, but the VIN confirmed it was the same 1999 Ford F-150 registered to Marcus Sullivan at the time of his disappearance. The original license plates had been removed and replaced with a set traced back to a non-operational trailer owned by a deceased relative of Holloway's. Investigators found something else troubling: partially erased serial numbers on the chassis. Someone had tried to obscure the truck's ownership. The odometer showed mileage consistent with limited use over an 8-year period, suggesting the vehicle had been sitting somewhere, hidden for most of that time. Then came the discovery that changed everything. During a forensic sweep of the truck's interior, technicians found a brown leather wallet wedged under the passenger seat. It was aged but intact. Inside were several items belonging to Marcus Sullivan, a faded union membership card from IBEW Local 1847, a folded photograph of Marcus and Jennifer dated 2010, and a gasoline receipt from a station in Elmira, New York. The timestamp on that receipt read October 13, 2012, the day after Marcus's reported departure for his hunting trip. This was the first confirmed physical evidence placing Marcus, or at least his vehicle, near Elmira the day after his last known sighting. It contradicted the hunting story entirely. Marcus Sullivan had never gone to the Alleghenies. He'd gone in the opposite direction. New York State Police immediately contacted law enforcement in Pennsylvania. The Sylvania County District Attorney's Office and Pennsylvania State Police were briefed on the vehicle recovery and the identification of Garrett Holloway as the driver. Given the nature of the original case and the new forensic findings, coordination between jurisdictions began immediately. The Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office authorized the reactivation of Marcus Sullivan's missing person file as part of a broader criminal investigation. And they turned their attention to the one person who'd had the most to gain from Marcus's disappearance, his wife, Jennifer. 6 months after Marcus vanished, Jennifer Sullivan left the couple's home in rural Sylvania County and relocated to Greenfield, Pennsylvania, about 35 miles west. The move coincided with a job transfer from her clerical position at the county clerk's office to a new administrative role at the Blair County Housing Authority. Jennifer sold the house she'd shared with Marcus, citing financial reasons, and leased a 1-bedroom apartment near the city's east side. Within weeks of the move, Jennifer initiated a claim on Marcus's life insurance policy, a $65,000 term life plan. The policy included a clause allowing disbursement after 180 consecutive days of verified absence. By late April 2013, the insurance company paid out in full. Though Marcus's legal death had not been established by the courts, the insurer accepted the disappearance classification and the documentation provided by law enforcement. Jennifer used the funds to settle outstanding household debts and reported the remainder as savings on her tax filings. She never applied for survivor benefits. She never petitioned for a formal death certificate. According to interviews with former neighbors, Jennifer had grown noticeably more withdrawn in the months after Marcus disappeared. One neighbor recalled that she stopped making eye contact and avoided casual conversation entirely. After the move to Greenfield, Jennifer began using her maiden name, Jennifer Cross, in non-official contexts, though she never filed for divorce or sought a legal name change. At work, she was described by colleagues as efficient and intensely private. Multiple co-workers stated that she never discussed Marcus in any detail. When his name came up, she referred to him only as Gone. In 2014, Jennifer began a relationship with Garrett Holloway. Public records show no marriage license, but by 2016, Holloway was listing Jennifer's address as his primary residence on state and federal tax filings. By 2018, she had listed Garrett as her emergency contact on employment forms and health insurance paperwork. That same year, Jennifer initiated a loan refinancing application involving a co-signed personal loan she'd originally taken out with Marcus in 2010. The bank requested verification of Marcus's status. In response, Jennifer submitted a notarized affidavit stating that Marcus had ceased all contact and was presumed deceased due to prolonged absence without explanation. Though she didn't attach a death certificate, the documentation met the bank's internal threshold for account closure. Marcus's remaining financial accounts, already dormant, were flagged for permanent closure. His credit profile was marked inactive in early 2019. By all outward measures, Marcus Sullivan had been erased from the system. But the recovery of that truck changed everything, and it gave investigators probable cause to take a much closer look at Jennifer's life. On June 2, 2020, Pennsylvania State Police executed a search warrant at Jennifer Sullivan's apartment in Greenfield. What they found inside would reframe the entire case. Among the most significant items recovered was a locked metal filing box discovered in a storage closet adjacent to the bedroom. Inside were categorized folders containing financial documents, insurance correspondence, and a collection of personal letters. Several of the letters were addressed to Rebecca, Marcus's sister. They'd never been sent. They appeared to have been written in the months following Marcus's disappearance and referenced closure, difficult decisions, and moving forward. But they made no mention of law enforcement or ongoing contact with Marcus. More troubling were the multiple handwritten drafts of short notes found in the box. One draft was nearly identical in wording and structure to the letter Jennifer had received in November 2012, the one supposedly sent by Marcus from Rochester. The draft contained the exact same sentence: "I'm done. I need space. Don't search for me." The writing matched the phrasing of the original mailed note almost word for word. But this draft was unfinished and bore internal postal sorting marks inconsistent with the Rochester postmark. One partial envelope was also found bearing a local Blair County postmark, not Rochester. These inconsistencies prompted immediate submission to forensic handwriting experts. But that wasn't all. Among the items in the filing box, investigators also recovered an old brass key with a simple label: Shed. That key brought them back to the house Marcus and Jennifer had shared in Sylvania County, the house that Jennifer had sold in 2013. The current owners, who'd purchased the property 7 years earlier, confirmed that the backyard storage shed had never been modified or accessed in any significant way since they'd moved in. With their consent, law enforcement officers conducted a search. Inside the shed, officers identified an altered section of the back wall. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was a false panel, secured loosely with wood screws. Behind the panel was a concealed void, a cavity large enough to hide a person or a large object. The floor of the void showed discoloration consistent with aged biological material. The plywood base bore an impression consistent with something heavy, rectangular, wrapped in tarp. Chemical luminol tests revealed moderate levels of blood spatter along the rear wall. An evidence collection team secured multiple biological samples from the site. A single strand of hair recovered from the floor was later confirmed through mitochondrial DNA analysis to belong to Marcus Sullivan. The blood residue, though degraded after 8 years, tested positive for human blood with partial genetic markers consistent with the Sullivan family profile. Following protocol, the search area was extended to include the perimeter of the backyard. Near the rear fence line, officers located a shallow burial site. Inside a rusted metal box were several of Marcus's personal items: his Pennsylvania hunting license, valid through 2013, a pair of worn work boots, and a broken wristwatch. These items had never been listed in the original missing person inventory. Jennifer had never reported finding them or turning them in. The working theory that emerged from the evidence was chilling. Marcus Sullivan had likely never left for his hunting trip on October 12, 2012. Instead, investigators believed he'd been killed inside or near the family home that morning, and the entire narrative of a voluntary disappearance, including the Rochester letter, had been fabricated after the fact. On June 4, 2020, arrest warrants were issued. Jennifer Sullivan was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, destruction of evidence, and insurance fraud. Garrett Holloway was charged with unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, tampering with physical evidence, and obstruction of justice. Both were taken into custody without incident and arraigned before the Blair County Court of Common Pleas. Bail for Jennifer was denied due to concerns about flight risk and the severity of the charges. Garrett was held on a $150,000 bond. Neither defendant made public statements at the time of arrest. Neither entered an immediate plea. The trial began in January 2021, more than 8 years after Marcus Sullivan's disappearance. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania brought formal charges before the Blair County Court of Common Pleas.
The trial was conducted jointly, with both defendants appearing in the same courtroom, seated separately and represented by individual legal counsel. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Helen Torres, structured its case around four primary pillars: the forged letter supposedly mailed from Rochester, the forensic evidence recovered from the backyard shed, the discrepancies in the reported timeline of Marcus's disappearance, and the unauthorized possession of Marcus's vehicle by Garrett Holloway.
In her opening statement, ADA Torres said plainly, this was not a disappearance. This was a staged erasure. A man's life was ended, and in its place, a narrative was created to serve financial and personal gain. She outlined the prosecution's theory that Jennifer had lured Marcus into the backyard shed early on the morning of October 12, 2012, under the pretense of helping him prepare for his hunting trip. There, a confrontation turned fatal. The prosecution couldn't claim to know the exact method of death. No murder weapon was recovered, but the physical evidence pointed to a violent event inside that shed. Blunt force trauma was the most likely scenario, based on the blood spatter patterns. As for motive, the prosecution presented financial records showing that the Sullivans had accumulated over $31,000 in unsecured debt by mid-2012. Credit card statements, medical bills, and a second mortgage were bleeding them dry. Add to that the emerging relationship between Jennifer and Garrett Holloway during the same period, and the motive became clear. Jennifer wanted out. She wanted the insurance money, and she wanted a new life. One coworker, a woman named Patricia Linden, testified under oath that Jennifer had confided in her just weeks before Marcus vanished. Patricia recalled Jennifer describing herself as trapped and waiting for a way out. Patricia also testified that Jennifer had mentioned someone new she was starting to see, though she didn't name Garrett Holloway at the time. Key forensic testimony came from Mark Devereaux, a crime scene analyst involved in the shed search. He described the blood spatter patterns as medium-velocity impact, consistent with blunt trauma. He also noted that luminol testing revealed extensive cleanup attempts on multiple surfaces, evidence that someone had tried very hard to erase what had happened there. DNA analysts confirmed that the single hair recovered from the shed's concealed void belonged to Marcus Sullivan. The blood samples, while degraded, shared genetic markers consistent with his maternal lineage. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was close. The letter, the one initially believed to have been sent by Marcus from Rochester, was presented as a central piece of fabricated evidence. A handwriting expert testified that the 2012 letter showed strong similarities to the drafts recovered from Jennifer's apartment. Ink analysis confirmed a match with pens Jennifer had previously ordered through her workplace. The jury was shown side-by-side images of two nearly identical letters, one mailed, one unfinished. The variations were minor. The intent was clear. Garrett Holloway declined to testify in his own defense and remained largely silent throughout the proceedings. His attorney argued that Garrett had played no role in Marcus's disappearance and was unaware of the vehicle's origin when he began driving it. The defense characterized Holloway as a passive figure who'd been pulled into a situation long after the fact, a man guilty only of poor judgment and misplaced loyalty. Jennifer's defense took a different approach. Her attorney maintained that there was no direct proof of homicide, no body, no confirmed cause of death, no murder weapon. He asserted that Marcus had left voluntarily and that Jennifer, after years of silence and uncertainty, had simply tried to move on with her life. As for the handwritten drafts found in her apartment, the defense claimed they were part of Jennifer's emotional processing, a way to find closure, not evidence of forgery. But the jury wasn't convinced. After 3 weeks of testimony and 6 hours of deliberation, they returned unanimous verdicts. On March 12, 2021, Jennifer Sullivan was found guilty on all charges: conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and obstruction of justice. Garrett Holloway was found guilty of being an accessory after the fact and tampering with physical evidence. Sentencing was scheduled for the following month. Both defendants were remanded into custody without bond. Outside the courthouse, Marcus's sister Rebecca made a brief statement to the press. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red. "They told the world my brother walked away. Now the truth has walked back in." Sentencing came down on April 14, 2021.
Jennifer Sullivan received 25 years in a Pennsylvania state correctional facility, with no eligibility for parole for the first 17 years. Judge Angela Brennan, delivering the sentence, cited the premeditated nature and moral coldness of Jennifer's actions. She emphasized the deliberate concealment of Marcus Sullivan's presumed death and the calculated effort to profit from his absence.
Garrett Holloway was sentenced to 14 years. While the court acknowledged that Holloway had not been charged with direct involvement in Marcus's death, Judge Brennan noted that his long-term participation in the cover-up, including his use of Marcus's vehicle and his active obstruction of the investigation, demonstrated clear complicity in sustaining a fraudulent narrative. Despite the weight of evidence, no murder charge was filed against either defendant. The absence of Marcus's body remained the critical limitation. Prosecutors explained during sentencing that without a confirmed cause of death or human remains, a homicide conviction would be legally unviable. Instead, the convictions rested on conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, evidence tampering, and obstruction, all upheld on the basis of circumstantial and forensic evidence. In June 2021, Marcus Sullivan was legally declared deceased by court order. The ruling, filed in Sylvania County, allowed for final closure of his legal and financial affairs. A private memorial was held in the small town of Riverside, attended by family members, former co-workers, and local union representatives. Rebecca Sullivan gave a brief eulogy. "They buried the truth for 8 years," she said, her voice breaking, "but now he gets his name back." In partnership with IBEW Local 1847, a portion of the recovered insurance funds was redirected to establish a trade school scholarship fund in Marcus's name, targeted towards second career electricians. The fund received its first round of applications in early 2022. Today, Jennifer Sullivan is incarcerated at the State Correctional Institution at Clearwater, a facility for female offenders in Northumberland County. She's ineligible for parole review until 2038. Garrett Holloway is serving his sentence at SCI Oakmont in Jefferson County. Per court order, the two are prohibited from any form of direct or third-party communication for the duration of their incarceration. Marcus Sullivan's remains have never been recovered. Multiple searches, both official and privately coordinated, have failed to identify a burial site or physical location definitively tied to his death. Law enforcement has not disclosed any ongoing search operations. As of 2024, his body remains unfound. The 1999 Ford F-150, the vehicle Marcus was last seen driving, remains in state custody. Repainted, weathered by time, stripped of its plates, it sits in a secured evidence lot in Scranton. Investigators and prosecutors agree that without the recovery of that truck and the forensic discoveries it contained, the case might never have moved forward. In the absence of a body, the truck became the central artifact in a case built not on confession, but on reconstruction. Rebecca Sullivan still lives in Harrisburg. She visits Marcus's memorial plaque twice a year and continues to advocate for stronger protections for families navigating the legal complexities of missing person cases. "People disappear every day," she said in a recent interview, "but they don't just vanish. Someone always knows something, and eventually, if you don't give up, the truth finds its way out." This case raises so many questions about how we handle missing person investigations, about the power of circumstantial evidence, and about how long someone can maintain a lie before it unravels. Jennifer Sullivan and Garrett Holloway thought they'd gotten away with it. For 8 years, they almost did. But a routine traffic stop, a single VIN check, and the determination of one sister who refused to let her brother be forgotten, that's all it took to bring the truth to light. If this story affected you, if it made you think about the families still searching for answers, or if you're fascinated by how investigators piece together cold cases after years of silence, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, share this story with someone who loves true crime, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the cases that captivate and haunt us. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, and remember, the truth, no matter how long it's buried, has a way of coming back.